Social justice, 1, 2, 3. Woo, woo. I wanna be PC. Woo, woo. It's just the way to be for me.
Welcome back to The Truth Factory. I think most people who watch my channel can agree that political correctness has gone way too far. Of course, I understand why it's not socially acceptable to intentionally be an asshole to people, but in the last decade, we've become so afraid of hurting other people's feelings that we've altered our own behavior to accommodate them instead of questioning if their hurt feelings are even rational. So at what point are we going to ask ourselves, why are we capitulating to the delusions and ideals of the far left? Why are their feelings so much more important than, I don't know, reality? And who is making up these rules for all of us to follow? Even 76% of Canadians think that political correctness has gone too far. So even the most polite country in the world is sick of this shit. So here are 5 examples of where political correctness has gone way too far. 1. Trying to make absolutely everything gender balanced just for the sake of saying it's gender balanced. Oh, and if somebody questions you on why that matters, instead of giving them a reasonable answer, you can just deflect and state the current year.
To have a cabinet that was gender balanced. Why was that so important to you?
Because it's 2015.
It's 2015.
And it's 2015 right now.
Right. Not an argument. It's not an argument. It's not an argument.
A group in Australia decided one day that the image of women wasn't equally represented on crosswalk signs and thought that that was a problem that they needed to solve. The real problem is that this is a complete waste of time and resources for something that is not an issue. The little person flicks on, that means you can walk. I'm not sure how gender matters here at all. And how do you know that the pedestrian symbol is a man anyway? Are you assuming it's gender? Perhaps the stickman figure is just the simplest way to represent a human, and trying to accurately convey gender on a limited platform might end in disaster. And yes, it did. This was the finished result. If I saw this, I would be confused if it meant only Mary Poppins or colonial women could cross. Now, this obviously isn't the only example of society pushing for equal gender representation. We also have affirmative action for women in tech, women in government, and in movies now. Like, do we really need an all-female Lord of the Flies? Because instead of killing the fat kid, they will just bully her until she kills herself. Because teenage girls are actually sociopaths. I know, because I used to be one. Remaking classic movies with female roles just isn't necessary. And of course they would never remake Bridget Jones's Diary with a male lead, because no one would watch it, even though we all know it would be played by James Corden. 2. Renaming things. A UK council decided to rename a classic European dessert because the old name, Spotted Dick, was deemed as offensive or perhaps triggering to women in some way. I'm not sure. I mean, I wouldn't be the first person to order up a big old plate of Spotted Dick myself, but I sure wouldn't order it by its new name either, the Spotted Richard. It's like they're trying to rebrand it to make it cool with the kids again. And now I'm gonna start replacing the word dick with Richard. That guy's a real Richard. Hey, send me a Richard pic. Let's look up that word in the Richard dictionary. Of course, this is far from the first time that things have been renamed to be less offensive. A UK council also replaced the term brainstorming with thought showers to not offend epileptics. I think a thought shower should only be done in the privacy of your own home. Number 3. War on holidays. It's weird that the West is pressured to respect everyone else's culture and religion, yet we're almost shamed when we want to celebrate ours. The war on Christmas has always been controversial, as it seems to be becoming a more ambiguous holiday just for the sole purpose of consumerism. A lot of people don't even say Merry Christmas anymore because that somehow might offend someone. In the future, we'll probably all just be sitting around our non-denominational tree exchanging winter wishes gifts. But it's not just Christmas. A school in Seattle renamed Easter eggs Spring Spheres. What a terrible way to describe an egg. It isn't even a sphere. Spring spheres. Really? Why not just call them spring eggs? Is this fragile, rounded object painted in pastel colors really triggering? Speaking of which, number 4. Being triggered by nothing. Apparently this decorative cotton is somehow offensive. A recent post on Hobby Lobby's Facebook said, "This decor is wrong on so many levels. There's nothing decorative about raw cotton, a commodity that was gained at the expense of African American slaves. A little sensitivity goes a long way. Please remove this decor." And I'm pretty sure that that specific cotton at Hobby Lobby was not picked by African slaves, nor is the cotton in the clothes that this person probably wears. Next, I bet they're going to try to take the cotton ball out of Tylenol bottles so it doesn't trigger people when they have to pick the cotton out. My ancestors were Irish. That doesn't mean I'm outraged every time I see a bag of potatoes. Number 5. The fear of being labeled. People are so afraid of being labeled sexist, racist, bigoted, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic that they are afraid to question if political correctness has gone too far. And if the only way that you can end an argument is by calling someone one of those pejoratives, maybe you don't actually have a very good argument yourself. There are almost bi-weekly terrorist attacks happening in Europe now, and it's discouraged to talk about how radical Islam might be an issue, because we don't want to be labeled Islamophobic. Countries like Germany and Sweden are actually covering up migrant rape and refugee violence for the sake of appearing politically correct. Out of all the problems I've listed, some of them are just silly, this one is actually important. Because why are we sticking our heads in the sand and ignoring reality? At some point, this political correctness even contradicts, because you can't say that you support women's equality and gay rights, but then look away when gays are being thrown off of roofs and women are being honor killed because you don't want to be Islamophobic. I'm just sick of being told what words I can't say, what subjects I can and can't talk about, what opinions I'm allowed and not allowed to have. Unless you want to walk on spring sphere shells for the rest of your life and have no real opinions, you have to accept that things that you say are going to piss people off. You might hurt people's feelings, but again, if what you are saying is rational, then you need to say it. Because issues like this arise when there's an inability or unwillingness of people to react or even be aware of threats like this that arise gradually. If we don't talk about these things in a frank way, one day you will wake up to your winter wishes tree and watch your non-binary gay Teletubby show, which will be the only thing on television that isn't banned, while eating Spotted Richard and waiting for your weekly allotted thought shower. What do you guys think about this? A link to my Twitter and Patreon in the description. Thank you so much for supporting me. Have a great night, guys. Meow.